Frieren reflects on her journey, which Eisen notes is merely a small fraction of her long life, recalling a time they observed the era meteors together. Eisen finds it amusing how much this fraction has changed her. Frieren and Eisen bid farewell as she and Fern leave. As they walk, Fern remarks that her time with Frieren has encompassed half her life. Frieren smiles, assuring it will be even more significant in the future. Fern dreams of a memory where Hyder tells her to be a good girl and follow Frieren's words, threatening to haunt her if she doesn't. Young Fern asks if he'll visit her if she becomes a bad girl, to which Hyder, patting her head, says he might visit if she's good. Fern wakes up to Frieren informing her they are nearing a village. In the Vili region of the Central Lands, after getting supplies in a villager warns them about a ghost causing people to go missing in the mountain pass. Frieren asks for more details and is directed to speak with those who have seen the ghost. They gather that villagers have seen ghosts of deceased loved ones, who even spoke to them. Frieren concludes this is not the work of undead, but a different monster, as undead wouldn't resemble living people. Despite the danger, Fern insists on helping the villagers, reminding Frieren of Himmel and the others. Frieren smiles and agrees to help if Fern is determined, noting they'll pass through the mountain anyway. The next day, they reach the area where people have gone missing. Finding traces of illusion magic, Fern identifies the monster as an Einsam, which uses illusions to lure humans. Frieren says mages can dispel the illusions with high-density mana. Fern confirms she can do this, understanding the phantom's true nature. Frieren shares her experience of dispelling her master's phantom, admitting it still feels uncomfortable. As they venture deeper into the woods, the mist thickens. Frieren warns Fern they're nearing the source and urges her to dispel any phantoms without hesitation. Suddenly Fern hears Hyder's voice and sees his phantom. Though prepared to fire, she hesitates when the phantom praises her. Fern realizes the cruelty of using cherished memories for manipulation. Frieren, unable to communicate with Fern, summons her staff when a phantom of Himmel appears. Frieren, surprised it's not Flam, wonders if she has changed. The phantom of Himmel tells her to shoot him. Frieren acknowledges this is typical of Himmel and fires Zoltrak, clearing the mist and revealing Einsam. Fern quickly destroys the monster. Fern notes the Hyder she saw was a fake. As they walk, Frieren tells Fern they will visit the real Hyder in Oriole. Later, in Regal Canyon, they observe a sleeping solar dragon. Frieren identifies a grimoire in the dragon's nest. Fern asks about the grimoire, and Frieren explains dragons use magic-infused items for their nests. The solar dragon has consumed many adventurers, so they must defeat it. Fern's Zoltrak spell fails against the dragon's scales. Frieren suggests retreating and trying again. Fern grabs Frieren, realizing they need a companion. A flashback shows Eisen advising Frieren to recruit a warrior named Stark near Regal Canyon. Eisen says Stark is his apprentice and a good warrior. In the village, Fern remarks on the peacefulness despite the nearby dragon. Frieren explains the grimoire contains a spell to see through clothes, which she collects as a hobby. An elderly villager approaches, explaining Stark wishes to meet them. The villager recounts how 3 years ago Stark faced the dragon, causing it to leave the village. Since then, Stark has stayed, keeping the dragon at bay. Fern suggests they might defeat the dragon with Stark's help, and Frieren hopes this is true. At a cliff base, a child asks Stark if he can become a powerful warrior like him. Stark affirms but says a warrior's job isn't noble. When Frieren and Fern arrive, Stark warns them not to provoke the dragon. Frieren dismisses his scar from fighting a shadow dragon as minor. Stark realizes his master sent them and asks their purpose. Frieren explains they need a vanguard to defeat the dragon and acquire the grimoire. Stark questions her motives, as fighting a solar dragon is no small feat. A brief flashback shows Frieren casting a spell that creates a dancing golem, astonishing the hero party. Frieren explains she once knew an idiot who admired her spells, which she considers a good reason for Stark to help. Stark finds this ridiculous, but reluctantly agrees, suspecting Eisen's influence. He admits struggling against the dragon alone and questions Friren's ability to defeat it. Frieren assures him she can, with his help to immobilize the dragon for 30 seconds. Stark hesitates, revealing he froze in fear during their encounter. He believes the dragon spared him, and the villagers' reverence complicates his departure. Fern suggests finding a new companion, but Frieren insists Stark can be of help. They discover a large crack in a cliff, and Frieren gives Stark one night to decide his future, emphasizing he can't continue as he is. Later, at a restaurant, Stark receives praise from the proprietors, which Fern dismisses as cowardice. Frieren recalls Fern's past struggles with monsters, causing tension. They discuss why a nearby dragon hasn't attacked the village when a noise interrupts them. Frieren suspects Stark and sends Fern to investigate. In her room, Frieren recalls Eisen's thoughts on Stark's potential. Eisen reveals Stark's childhood trauma of fleeing from monsters, similar to his own past. Eisen trained Stark to fight for others, shaping him into a capable warrior. Meanwhile, Stark is revealed to be relentlessly striking the cliff with his axe, a discovery Fern makes as she approaches him. Fern questions Stark about why he continues to train, despite not intending to fight the dragon. Stark explains that the villagers see him as a hero and expect him to protect them, though he confesses he feels he would likely flee. Stark reveals that his forehead scar resulted from an argument with his master over his reluctance to fight monsters, leaving him feeling like a disappointment. He never received praise from his master, Eisen. Fern observes Stark's roughened hands, realizing the extent of his training. Fern empathizes with Stark, recalling her own fear during her first monster battle. Despite extensive training, she had initially fled in terror, chased by the monster, and Frieren refused to help her. Once she resolved to confront the monster, she defeated it instinctively. Fern reassures Stark that she believes in his genuine resolve to protect the village and leaves him for the night. The next day, Frieren and Fern head to the cliffside, not finding Stark there initially. As they prepare to confront the dragon, Stark appears, asking Frieren to promise to kill the dragon if he dies in battle. Frieren questions his dedication to the villagers, to which Stark responds that 3 years in the village feels like eternity to him. Frieren finds this ephemeral, but understands Stark's perspective. As they approach the dragon, Stark's hands tremble with fear. Frieren, amused, notes that Stark resembles Eisen, recalling a moment when Eisen admitted his fear before a battle, viewing it as a driving force throughout their journey. Frieren's comment makes Stark smile. Stark advances on the dragon while Frieren and Fern observe from a distance. Fern notes the dragon's lack of aggression, and Frieren explains that dragons, being intelligent, avoid antagonizing powerful enemies. She reveals that Eisen's anger at Stark was not due to weakness, but fear, recalling Eisen's admiration for Stark's potential to become an incredible warrior. Stark delivers a powerful blow to the dragon, incapacitating it. He urges Frieren and Fern to attack, but Frieren stops Fern, stating the dragon is already dead. Frieren praises Stark, who is initially anxious. She then loots the dragon's nest. Stark recalls Eisen mentioning that Frieren made their journey both deplorable and incredibly fun, making Frieren smile at the memory. Frieren remembers using magic to create shaved ice for Hyder, while Eisen and Himmel discussed their journey's challenges. Despite Eisen's concerns about their perilous quest, Himmel preferred a fun journey they could laugh at later, even if it turned out deplorable. Inspired, Stark decides to join Frieren and Fern, seeking a similarly memorable journey. Frieren, Fern, and Stark reach the fortress city of Wall near Regal Canyon. They attempt to head north, but are blocked by a barrier due to heavy monster activity. Frieren nonchalantly decides to relax in Wall and research magic. The party splits up, with Frieren checking into an inn and Stark seeking food. Fern overhears that the barrier might remain closed for at least 2 years. At a bar, Stark nostalgically orders a jumbo berry special, reminiscing about sharing it with his master as a child. Fern joins him and asks about staying in Wall for 2 years, which Stark dismisses, relieving her. They decide to find a way over the barrier, considering and discarding various ideas. Stark suggests consulting the black market and the Thieves' Guild, but they find no solutions. Desperate, Stark proposes trying the guard station. Fern, puzzled by his urgency, learns that Stark wants to repay Eisen by gathering stories from their journey to share with him. They then notice Frieren trying to hide from someone. The captain of the guard and the Castellan of Waal appear, apologizing to Frieren and offering passage through the barrier, mistaking her intention to stop the Demon King's remnants. With great fanfare, the trio approaches the barrier. Fern asks why they didn't use Frieren's name earlier, and Frieren admits she doubted it would work. Stark cherishes this moment, reminiscent of Eisen's own northward journey. They pass through the barrier, continuing their voyage into the north.